Story 1. Not really a purchase. However, I would donate approximately $8 million, enough to clear all their debt, to a specific nonprofit that I know of, but only if they fired 4 people and promised to never rehire them. That's about the pettiest thing I can think of right now. Story 2. A semi-truck followed my previous instructor, who said I wouldn't pass the commercial driver's license test, while I kept the air horn going whenever he tried to talk. I should have mentioned that I passed the commercial driver's license test on my first try, with only 1 or 2 points counted against me for doing an extra pull-up during the straight back test. I executed the offset back maneuver perfectly, which my instructor claimed I would never learn. Story 3. I would sit down with the curator of my local museum. There is a plastic model inside the museum that I have disliked since childhood. I would find a way to organize the removal of it and have it thrown into the trash. It resembles an Alaskan bullworm. Story 4. Every year on November 1st, I call the 3 major local radio stations and the local news, offering a large sum of money to charity in exchange for not playing any Christmas-related songs from November 1st to January 15th. The amount is substantial enough to make it worthwhile. They are also welcome to encourage the community to raise a competing amount so they can play the songs. Story 5. As a completely petty purchase, I would buy all the land around Elon Musk's house, then buy all the used Cybertrucks I could find, crush them just enough to make them unsightly, and turn the plot into a crushed Cybertruck junkyard so he can stare at their ugly wrecks all day, every day. Edit. Clearly, I should have emphasized the word used from the beginning, given how many people are advising me not to buy new Cybertrucks. I would never do that even if they were the only cars left on Earth and I had to have something. I would build something out of scrap first. Story 6. I acquired as much housing as I could afford and then gave it away to people experiencing homelessness. It's a way to assert my independence, focusing my efforts on challenging landlords. Story 7. I stand to eventually inherit a significant amount from my super conservative, very religious, and bigoted parents. I have kept my views quiet for that reason and feel guilty about it. However, I plan to donate a substantial portion to causes they oppose, such as Planned Parenthood and the American Civil Liberties Union, in their name. Story 8. I would purchase land in my town filled with not in my backyard residents and do everything I could to create controversy. I would likely develop affordable housing. Story 9. I would buy a Prius and install a V8 engine inside. It would look like a normal Prius, but when started, it would sound like a roaring dragon. Story 10. I would find the poorest federally recognized Native American tribe in the United States and invest significantly in it. I will ensure the tribe has a 51% ownership stake in all operations. I would guide them in renegotiating the prescription drug prices they pay for their clinics and pharmacies. Then, I would fully fund whatever is necessary to establish their own legal pharmacy, capable of filling prescriptions for anyone, regardless of their enrollment status. The tribe will benefit from a reasonable markup on sales, and everyone within a reasonable distance of the reservation will have access to discounted medications. Finally, we would demonstrate to other tribes across the United States how to implement a similar approach. Story 11. I would buy the Philadelphia 76ers and turn every chair in the arena backward. I would put Friends reruns on the Jumbotron, make parking expensive, and allow payments for only 30 minutes at a time, requiring fans to go back out a couple of times during the game. If that doesn't break their spirits, I would take drastic measures and make every food stand in Arby's. From the deepest, most sincere part of my heart, I strongly dislike that team. Story 12. I would purchase the lot next to the critical evangelical individual in our neighborhood and build a skate park. Story 13. Dine at the finest restaurants for every meal while wearing pajamas. Purchase my own movie theater. Acquire an animal rescue organization, such as Battersea and a few small local shelters, and improve the facilities to an extraordinary standard. Hire additional staff and offer them higher salaries, ensuring every animal has someone to play with around the clock. Pursue various doctoral degrees. Fund a film for my friends who aspire to work in the movie industry. Travel frequently. Story 14. The house I grew up in and the 2 houses built behind it after it was sold. I would tear down the other 2 houses and the white picket fence, Get the white paint sandblasted off the brick, remove the plantings, and restore the boxwoods and azaleas. I would replant all the trees that were removed and restore the woods taken out to build the other two houses, spending the rest of my life there, happy as can be. Story 15. Our school has many low-income students who qualify for free or reduced-price meals. We had a leave one, take one cart where students could leave food they didn't want and pick up food they wanted. It was a good system. After breakfast, leftovers would go to the break room, and teachers could take some for their snacks. One day, a state administrator said we couldn't do that anymore, and students weren't allowed to save food for later because it was considered stealing. If I had the financial means, I would seek out that person and address the situation, ensuring it was lawful. Then I would make sure all school meals are free and increase the variety and quality of the food. Story 16. I assume I acquired this in a windfall, creating a before and after period in my life. I would attempt to purchase the property owned by a former employer and lease it back to them. Story 17. I buy new socks, wear them once, wash them, donate them, and then purchase new ones so I always have brand new socks. Story 18. Thank you money or thank you money. If the latter applies, the building my company is in requires a paper check, and I personally pick it up every month with a smile. Story 19. Buy my uncle's house. He told me that growing up, the only time I could be in a house as beautiful as his was when I was cleaning it. I became a top producer in real estate in my area and bought a beautiful home, but I would still like to buy his even more now because it is his only asset due to poor financial maintenance. Story 20. Buy out my place of employment and be in control instead of the other way around. Buy a house and a nice car just to show off. It would be the ultimate way to demonstrate success to the bosses who used to treat you poorly, and now they would have to follow your rules. Story 21. I've always wanted to park a dilapidated van on the road outside my friend's house, where he usually parks his Porsche, and leave it there to annoy him. Story 22. A plain banner or skywriting could express discontent about the company that acquired the one I worked for after my boss passed away and terminated us without paying the commission I earned. The NFL home opener would be a good opportunity. Story 23. I would play gas-powered leaf blower sounds whenever my neighbor is outside, especially during his backyard parties. He constantly uses his leaf blower to move dust around on the street. He also hoses off his driveway and the street in front of his house during the winter in Oregon. Story 24. I would pay all the key people I work with and like to keep the company running if they leave with me. Then I would observe the self-righteous leaders who believe they are the ones keeping it going freak out when they can't even complete the most basic tasks. Story 25. Mar-a-Lago, so that I can bulldoze it and put up a giant statue of the figure resembling a Cheeto nursing from Putin's teat in its place. Story 26. I would buy land that developers want, just so they cannot clear the land and build small houses. There are a couple of places near me that would be perfect for this. Story 27. I would invest in male hormonal contraception and intratesticular devices. I'm not sure if this is trivial or essential. Story 28. I would buy every single unattractive storage facility, vape store and mattress store in my city, tear them down, and build dog parks, LGBTQ+ bars, and affordable housing. Story 29. I would purchase the parent company of the subsidiary that my former in-laws own and shut it down. Story 30. I would buy out shareholders of large companies and focus less on profit and more on people. Story 31. Purchase every major company my previous job had a significant contract with, and then utilize any other contractor I could locate. Story 32. I would buy electronic billboards and place them next to the locations where I have worked in the past, particularly where management was poor. They would display images of me in exotic locations continuously throughout the year. Story 33. Most of the gentrified downtown of my city will be rented at an affordable price exclusively for local residents. Additionally, many plants will be placed throughout the downtown tourist areas, as there are currently none. Story 34. I would buy the United States and not run it into the ground. I suppose it has been up for sale all along. Story 35. 3 houses surround the worst neighbor I ever had. I would donate them to either a halfway house or addiction recovery charities. Story 36. A large sign on the highway that says, "You are not welcome," followed by another sign on the opposite side that reads, "You are not welcome again." Story 37. I do not have a shed since my homeowners association does not allow them. I do not need one, but I would enjoy watching them waste their time and money trying to get me to take it down. Story 38. I would buy the mortgage bank that owns the debt on the home of the person who previously lived in the apartment above me in college. Story 39. Once a year, hire black market hackers to empty every billionaire's bank account to zero. Make them work for minimum wage for a year and then take it all away. See how they handle it. Story 40. I would buy nice bicycles, helmets, and locks for every child in the NIMBY neighborhood where they protested protected bike lanes. Then, I would pay for at least 4 sessions of safe biking instruction for the children. Take the class, get the bike. Story 41. I would lead the next round at my company and dismiss the CEO and 2 other individuals. It wouldn't even require extra funds, to be honest. Story 42. I would return to all my previous jobs and gather everyone together with a substantial amount of money, encouraging them to walk out or resign. Story 43. I'm still in the same place, just in a different department now. I would join my previous boss's morning startup meeting and offer every single person on his team $100,000 each to walk out and quit immediately. Story 44. Buy the family farm back from a certain undesirable family that has ruined it, and then ban them from the premises. Story 45. Sadly, I don't think my 82-year-old mother can be cured of being paralyzed. It also won't provide a cure for my severe case of long COVID. So what do you want? You can have it. Take it all. It means nothing. Story 46. Buy the company I used to work for, terminate all employees, and then resell the location to someone more deserving. Story 47. My friend was sued by his ex for contempt of court. He won, and she had to pay the $15,000 fine, which was all she had. He bought a billboard near her home that read, "Thanks for the billboard money, Kelly," along with his picture. Story 48. I would buy the original monster truck Bigfoot, restore it to its thunderous glory, and take my young son, sitting him on my lap as we drive around the city, crushing any car parked in a bike lane, blocking a bus route, or backed into an emergency exit. "This is how they learn, son. This is how they learn," is what I would tell him, absolutely flattening that Lexus with its hazards on as the owner rushes into the Starbucks for just a minute. Story 49. I got banned from a bar about 10 years ago. The manager still works there. I plan to buy that place and fire him first. Story 50. I would find out where my former boss is working, buy the business, and let him go. I endured 20 years of his behavior, so he needs to be put in his place. Story 51. My neighbor's house has a backyard that resembles a garbage dump, with abandoned cars turning to rust. He is a renter, and his landlord is an elderly woman who is unable to perform inspections. I would buy the house, evict him, and clean the backyard. Instead of renting it out, I would remove the fence dividing our backyards and let my mom live there. Story 52. If I had substantial wealth, like billionaire-level resources that allowed me to not worry about anything, I would go wild with something both petty and extraordinary. Here's what I would do. I would buy a massive, remote island, but not just any island. I would turn it into a fictional world come to life. Think a full-scale, immersive experience similar to a fantasy role-playing game, with castles, dungeons, quests, and actors living in character around the clock. You could join a guild, get a sword, and actually live out a fantasy adventure. No phones. No real world, just pure medieval bliss. Additionally, I would likely hire a personal chef whose entire job would be to create gourmet versions of childhood snacks, like luxurious cosmic brownies or high-end lunchboxes. Story 53. I would hire someone to be present at local jails and post bond for every nonviolent arrestee, as well as provide them with excellent legal representation. Story 54. A Cybertruck painted in vibrant colors with Islamic flag bumper stickers and a horn that plays a popular song, just to short-circuit everyone's thoughts. I have a feeling this joke isn't going to land. Story 55. Any property, whether commercial or residential, that is historic in some way, officially or unofficially recognized, is at risk of becoming a parking lot or subject to other undesirable commercial development. Story 56. Sony, not just for PlayStation, but it's time to bring back games at multiple price points and support for backwards compatibility. Also, Sony Pictures should demonstrate how to create standalone villain movies. Additionally, I would like New Line cinema from Warner Brothers. Seeing a trailer for a New Line movie in the 90s meant fun and excitement. Moreover, there should be an emphasis on cool electronics, such as smart TVs with upgrade slots and customizable user interfaces. We should also see a return of classic smartphones and improved foldable phones. Story 57. I enjoy watching people. I would continue to do so and quietly help those who actually need it without filming for credit, just helping. Story 58. Buy a landlord's property and resell it to a family whose rental applications were rejected at half the market price. Story 59. I would buy Dungeons and Dragons and ensure that the open game license issues never happen again. I might donate the intellectual property to a non-profit organization. Story 60. I would buy out the last company I worked for. They were a great company that engaged in impressive defense projects, but their management became greedy and damaged the company culture. I still have friends there whom I would help escape their unfulfilling positions, along with individuals who would be promptly terminated. Story 61. Not so much a purchase, but more a donation. Currently, Google gives a significant amount of money to the Mozilla Foundation in exchange for Google being the default search engine for Firefox. I would outbid their donation in exchange for Firefox prompting the user to select their default search engine upon first startup. Story 62. A golden butt plug, so whenever someone tells me to go away, I can pull it out and say I'm already on it. Story 63. I would try to persuade the state legislature to ban payday loans. I know a few individuals profiting from usury laws at the expense of the underprivileged. I would like to see them in similar circumstances. Story 64. The driveway up to my flat needs to have fences and bollards installed to prevent people from parking there. I'm not sure if it would be possible to purchase that, though. Story 65. Buy the old company I used to work for and shut it down. Not just my supervisors, but my coworkers were unsatisfactory as well. Story 66. I would buy my former employer that is going through bankruptcy just so I could fire the director who wrote me up to protect himself. Story 67. I don't believe I have a trivial purchase. My plan is to donate enough money to the zoo to have an enclosure named after me, and then take all my nieces and nephews and tell them that this was their college fund. Story 68. This is more of a reverse strategy. I would buy every copy of all my dad's books that I could find at full retail price. Then, I would hire my kids to drive around the country and donate them to the libraries where they would best fit. Story 69. I would have a seat at every significant event that my state legislative leadership attends but does not control, and I would publicly challenge them. I would also organize a larger, better cookout than the state Senate leader does near my parents' home every other year at the same time, inviting everyone, including his competitors. It would feature a bounce house and balloon animals. Story 70. I would rehire the cast and finish Game of Thrones in CGI animation. It's strange that they abruptly canceled the show after season 5. Story 71. This would be several $billion in funding, and I would buy the rights to Star Trek from Paramount Pictures. All they are doing now is competing with Disney by producing low-quality films from different universes. Story 72. I would buy a chain pharmacy, pay the employees a fair wage, staff it well, and charge patients a maximum of $5 for their medications. Story 73. I would buy this rock and gems shop in downtown Santa Fe. The owner was awful to my children. I would buy it and let him watch as I burned his entire inventory. Story 74. I have a friend who plays Magic: The Gathering. There is a particularly frustrating card called Cyclonic Rift that he despises. His dream purchase would be to buy out all the online dealers of as many copies as possible to make the card that difficult and expensive to play. He would offer everyone $100 per copy until the market stabilizes. Then, He would gather them together in a bonfire on a live stream. Story 75. I would buy a dealership or land to build a dealership for a car manufacturer that I like, preferably next to a dealership that I dislike. I wouldn't sell a single car for a cent over the manufacturer's suggested retail price. Having sufficient funds means I can take losses on the cars I sell without worry. The goal would be to put substandard dealerships out of business by taking market share with lower prices that they cannot compete with effectively. I aim to set a standard for good dealership practices and eliminate these unethical dealerships. Story 76. Buy the entire apartment building where I live and evict my next-door neighbor. For everyone else, I would pay off their mortgage. Story 77. Buy the company I used to work for, fire everyone from the top down, revamp it, and make it the best women-owned business there is. Story 78. Midterm elections resulted in a victory for the Democrats. Money influences votes. We live in a corrupt system and need to level the playing field. Story 79. I would buy the publishing rights and every copy of Breakfast in America, including the master tapes. I would have Logical Song erased from existence. Story 80. The land across from my job would be the site of a 500-foot-tall bronze statue of myself. It would feature my glaring face staring directly at the front door of my office building. The eyes would be adorned with large rubies or red lenses designed to catch the sunlight every day at 4:30 p.m., reflecting it onto that door like laser beams. This way, those office workers would know that I am always present, always watching. Story 81. How much financial security do I have? If I have enough, I would buy out the majority of Congress to push for actual changes instead of divisive, factionalized policies. Real healthcare, real education, a genuine social safety net, and sensible immigration policies are necessary because every piece of scientific research indicates that having more immigrants boosts our economy and creates complementary jobs that hire locally. Real consumer rights and long-term mutually beneficial foreign policies are also essential, as well as firmly opposing retrogressive policies. Story 82. A personal manure mixer. You are at a bar or a store and someone is being unpleasant. Here's $300. Go make that person wildly uncomfortable. Nothing violent, just create awkward situations. Story 83. The presidency would allow me to secure grants for my companies and eliminate the agencies investigating corruption within them. I would also consider banning people from social media platforms for being unkind to me. Story 84. I can think of about 5 houses where people live whom I don't like because they moved into my area and immediately started complaining about the residents in the neighborhood. Story 85. I would buy the RMS Queen Mary and make her sail again. People would tell me I could build a new ship, but I would say no. I want that ship I've been staring at my whole life to sail again. Then I would host charity cruises and ask the King of England to rechristen her. Story 86. I would find problematic homeowners associations, gain a position on the board, dismantle their power, and move on to the next one. Story 87. I have been looking at many extravagant yachts on YouTube. In addition to the purchase price of the yacht, the ongoing expenses for crew, fuel, and port fees are extremely high. Story 88. I am an independent author trying to get published. If I had hundreds of millions of dollars, I would buy the rights to properties just to write and publish fan fiction novels. Story 89. Wealth? The stock market. All the theoretical wealth is now mine, and the billionaires have tangible wealth that they must pay taxes on. Story 90. I would purchase all beachfront, mangrove, and near wetlands properties for sale in Southwest Florida and donate them to a conservation foundation that I also fund. It is truly the most unique ecosystem in the country, and it has been devastated for the comfort of the elderly and affluent. Story 91. I would buy a home and build it on top of Tom Cruise's house. That way, I could say that my home is so spacious that I have Tom Cruise's house inside it. Story 92. I would buy out the corporation I work for and confront the vice president who has caused me so much trouble over the years, making his life difficult. Then I would fire him and sell the company. Story 93. House or yacht in the city where my ex lives, just to crowd her and show off. I might buy billboard space advertising myself as the most eligible bachelor. Story 94. Two things, both land-related. First, I would buy a house for my ex so she cannot use rent as an excuse to complain about money anymore. I would even purchase it in a trust so the trust can maintain it and pay the taxes. Second, I would buy back my grandparents' land where I grew up. My father's family argued over it when my grandmother passed away, leading to its sale. I would buy it back, but I would only share it with my immediate family and my sister's family. Story 95. The company I work for is what I would buy. There are two people preventing it from being a truly great place to work. Unfortunately, those two people are the president and the vice president. Story 96. There is an artist I don't like who has a bad reputation, and many people don't allow him around women. Somehow he got a job with a very good fabricator. My purchase would be a custom piece that is absolutely amazing. However, the artist won't be part of it. There will be no sketches, fabrication, notoriety, or anything else related to him. He will see the piece and know that everyone but him is commissioned to work on it. In fact, he can't even be in the same room as it if I have enough money to exclude him. I know I couldn't get him fired, even though his history should prevent him from being hired in the first place, but I believe the exclusion would drive him crazy. Story 97. I would probably buy Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft. The console wars will end. A new age shall emerge, one with reasonable prices and a sense of community. Story 98. I would ask my friend what food he was going to get from fast food, and then buy everything it has so he can't get anything. Story 99. I would stand outside Trump rallies with a team to offer individuals $1,000 cash to not enter. Then, I would hire a group of individuals opposed to Trump to either go in and heckle him or simply stand there and meow. Story 100. I would buy the plaza where my work is located as a gesture to our landlord. He is difficult and keeps trying to push us to move, despite my boss being there before he purchased the plaza and us generating a good amount of business for the other tenants. Story 101. I would essentially be living in a full-scale Millennium Falcon. Additionally, I would fully fund independent filmmakers' projects. Story 102. A friend and I were chatting and agreed that if we were rich like multimillionaires, we would keep a stock of suction cup toys in the car. When people drive or park poorly, we would stick one on their windshield. I guess that's just a petty hobby I would have. Story 103. I would pay an East Asian testing laboratory to test all the Body Shop products on the cutest available animals, then publish the results so they can no longer claim to be never tested on animals. Story 104. I would hire someone to follow two universally disliked individuals in my small community. They would keep their distance to avoid being noticed by anyone except for these two individuals, and it would gradually drive them to madness. Story 105. The Buffalo Trace Distillery. I would refuse to sell to any liquor stores that sell for more than 25 to 50% over the manufacturer's suggested retail price. I just want a bottle of Eagle Rare. Story 106. I would purchase properties in the wealthiest neighborhoods around the world and rent them as affordable housing, watching the property values of the affluent decrease. Story 107. There is a house in the mostly abandoned expanse of California City. It is the only house within an 8-block radius of empty lots. It is a good-looking house, too, with a nice desert-friendly front garden, a clean driveway, and modern roofing. To reach this house, you must drive down the only street that the county bothers to pave. This means that on the homeowner's trips to and from town, he has to pass by the abomination. It is clearly the architectural fever dream of a disturbed individual. The house itself is recognizable as house-shaped, but that is where the appeal ends. The person who built it decided to hand-paint every other brick in the most outrageous pink, neon green, and vomit orange colors found in early 1990s toys. Even more infuriating, there is absolutely no pattern to the colors of the bricks. Deliberate effort was made to ensure there was a chaotic break in repetition wherever possible, creating a jarring experience for anyone with even mild obsessive-compulsive tendencies. Where your brain anticipates a neon green brick, instead you encounter pink. This poor individual, in his nice isolated house with the desert essentially all to himself, has to drive past this dreadful structure every day, and I can only imagine it ruins his day just to look at it. If I had significant financial resources, I would buy the lots next to the abomination and construct exact replicas of it, brick by nonsensical brick. My intent would not be malicious. Rather, I would fully empathize with what he feels each day when he passes by, and I wonder what kind of loud lamentations occupy his nightly prayers to his God when he realizes that the strange house is inexplicably multiplying. Story 108. I would buy my grandmother's house and pay for the best attorney for my mother. My grandmother passed away a few years ago, and now my cousin is suing my mother for much more than her share from the sale of the house. Story 109. By the Indiana Jones franchise. The recent movies were acceptable, and the video game was quite good. I would like to continue developing this for another 2 decades with my studios. Story 110. I would buy my dad's house, paint it with a large design, paint the driveway a brown color, and pay the monthly homeowner association fines. I would do this for every house he moved to. I would have a lawyer on retainer to handle any legal fees if he attempted to sue me. If he did sue me while we were in court, I would have a team of 20 people paint his truck with an inappropriate design. Story 111. Bribe judges to counter Trump's actions to keep him out of jail. I would ensure that he faces justice and serves his sentence, so true justice can be served and the country can take one step closer to being a democracy with truth and justice as our ideals. Story 112. Every time I go out to dinner, I tip my server reasonably, but nothing excessive. However, I also give a random waitstaff member, like the food runner or someone who refilled my water, a $100 bill. Story 113. I would buy billboard advertisements featuring the names and pictures of landlords who regularly evict their tenants in their hometowns, with the text, "My name is __, and I enjoy evicting people from their homes to increase my wealth. Say hello to me in town and share your thoughts." Story 114. I am buying out every taxi company called Yellow Cab, whose taxis are not yellow, and having them all repainted yellow. Story 115. A poor quality car parked in front of my neighbor's house. One that is even worse than the one he placed semi-permanently in front of mine. Story 116. I would buy all the houses on my ex-friend's street and rent them for free to criminals and drug users to ruin the area and subsequently his childhood home. Story 117. A medium-sized factory or warehouse with a mezzanine floor will be converted into my hobby and gaming den. It will have dedicated space for painting, war games, tabletop gaming, LAN parties, and console gaming, essentially creating a huge man cave. Additionally, there will be a small workshop for projects I want to undertake. The living space will be at home, while all other activities will be accessible outside of that area. Story 118. I would buy my company, or at least a majority stake in it, anonymously. Then, I would continue to work there and regularly call out upper management's issues in front of everyone without getting fired. I would do this until I got bored and then quit in an epic way. Story 119. Many of the houses along my road are available. I would buy them all, invite a few family members and friends, and be surrounded by people I know well. I would give each of them a house. Story 120. I would purchase mansions in Southern California and allow homeless individuals to reside in them, not out of a genuine concern for their well-being, but simply to annoy those who oppose development in their neighborhoods. Story 121. I am restoring a Corvette and I would finish restoring it. The first thing I would do with the money is convert all the bolts on that vehicle to metric, simply because the Society of Automotive Engineers measurements are not ideal. Story 122. I would announce that I was distributing the maximum tax-free gift amount to everyone I knew and organize 2 events to hand out the gifts. At the first event, everyone would come, have a great time, and receive a check. They could share their experiences online and inform their friends who might attend the second day. Everyone at this gathering would be a registered member of the Democratic Party. The second event would be for all the Republicans. When they arrived, I would thank them for coming, but since they oppose handouts and freeloading, I would inform them that I donated the amounts in their name to various charities supporting abortion rights, LGBTQ+ rights, and Democratic election funds. Story 123. I would buy a failing ski hill. From Friday to Sunday, I would keep it operating at reasonable prices for the local community, but from Monday to Thursday, it would be just for me and my friends. Story 124. Any ski resort that comes up for sale should hire locals and give them an ownership stake. It can be a snowboarders-only resort to compete against exclusive skier-only resorts. Story 125. An entire day's allotment of tickets for each of the Florida Disney parks is available, with each park designated for a different day. Magic Kingdom is exclusively mine for all day Monday. Everyone else can still visit the other parks. On Tuesday, it will be Hollywood Studios. I would be more than happy to have Make-A-Wish families and others join me in the park of the day. It will be extra magical with no lines. Story 126. I would seek to influence all current members of Congress and make them admit to their illegal acts. Story 127. Maybe I should confront my abusive alcoholic father. Thank God he left to get milk about 22 years ago. Otherwise, I would hire a group of people to fill the house of a former teacher of mine with objects featuring middle fingers. Story 128. 5 pizzas using pepperoni to spell out letters. 2 I's, 1 Q, 1 U, and 1 T. Take them to work after they have cooled. Lay them on the counter in the proper order, and gesture towards everyone in management. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.